Great. Uh, okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to another session with PNK Securities. I'm Sanjeev Mota. Uh, Today, I have a very interesting guest, Mr. Kavindra Mishra, CEO of Shoppers Stop. Kavindra, welcome to this webinar that we have.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeev.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think so. This is, I must tell you, Shopper Stop is the first company where we are doing this the second time.
Wow.
I have done this talk with your predecessor, Venu, and I'm quite delighted to do this again. And of course, maybe the way I'd like to start is basically more about your journey to start with.
Okay.
If you can talk about uh, how you came to join Stopper Stop. I think you joined, if I'm not wrong, sometime in March of last year, right? Or
Yes, I joined in March. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe if you can talk a bit about yourself and how did you end up joining Shopperstock?
Sure, Sanjeev. First of all, thank you for two things. A, giving me a chance to have this interaction with you. I hope this is as stimulating as all our conversations always are. And second, featuring shoppers once again. So thank you for that. So, Sanjeev, a little background about myself. I come from a place called Lucknow, born and brought up there. Did my schooling from Indore, Lucknow in Indore. Did my MBA from IIM Bangalore, and since then I have been always into the business of retail and brand. So I worked with Madura. I was the brand head Fallon Solly, and then post that I was part of the team which launched Tommy in India. So was working with Shailesh at that point of time. uh, was running the business operations for Benetton India. Then also ran my e-commerce company called Zovi. So that's where, and I was among the first set of entrepreneurs in the e-com world. I'm talking about 2011, 12, 13. At that time, we were funded with by Tiger Global and SAF partners. So that was a very enriching experience. 2013 is when Bombay grew towards that, and that's the time when I joined as CEO and MD for Pepe. Took the business to a large level. The last 4 years was with House of Anita Dongre, where I was part of the business which was running Global Desi and. Met Venu in March when he proposed that I should be joining them, and I think, see, as a entrepreneur, as a professional, you have always admired Shoppers Stop from outside. And in my case, since I have been working with various people in Shoppers, various leadership teams from the brand side, I've always been a brand person. So to come and work with Shoppers, which actually is the pioneers of retail in the country, I think that was a great experience, and I took that opportunity. Joined as chief commercial officer for the brands. I was just also looking after the brands business, space planning, as the CEO for Homestop as well. And that I think actually was very exciting for me, because if you look in my career, I have done men's, women's, casual, online, across formats, build brands, created them, uh, ensured that the brands get repurposed. But I had never done home, so I think that also was one of the reasons which was very enriching for me. Joined Shoppers in March, and September is when I got a chance to take this role. So it has been a very interesting journey for me till now. I've always been a brand person, because I think, and a product person, because I think that's the heart of any business, and that's the journey which I'm looking at and building on what we have, what my predecessors have done beautifully till now, and how do you take these things going forward. So I think that's something a little bit about me as a professional, as a person.
Sure. In fact, you talked about, in fact, our last conversation also, we talked about Benetton.
Yes.
And, I actually thought that Benetton as a brand is not even properly existing, but you actually said it's actually, maybe you can talk a bit about that to start with, within the context of Shopper Stop as well.
Yeah, so I think Benetton is a very, very exciting brand. One of the earliest ones which came into the country, I believe, in around 1991. Uh, a, a brand which actually resonates fashion. It's all about colors. They always had such amazing campaigns, and the teams over the years have done a fab job. If I talk about the shoppers concept, Benetton with men's does extremely well, uh, among the top three brands for us in terms of business performance, the KPIs which we measure. But I think the real juice of Benetton is in kids. They are the undisputed number one player of kids business within Shoppers format and across their stores as well. So it's a great brand. It's a very exciting brand, and I think it's a brand which stories with very differentiated products, and they have always been very, very strong. And within us, we are happy to share that does really well with us as a portfolio as well.
That's really interesting because, I guess India is different comes out, when, and, this is one clear example of that.
Right.
Actually, Kavi, what you talked about you being a brand person and you've always been in brand
Hmm.
companies, as you said, be it
Yeah.
Benetton, be it House of Anita Dongre, whatever. Now, you moved into a department store
Hmm.
kind of concept, which is multi-brand. Uh, and if, one of the CEOs who I admire a lot in another retail company actually mentioned that going forward, the future seems more of branded single brand stores rather than department stores. Whereas you are taking a bet the other way around. You've actually gone from brand to a department store. Would like to hear your perspective that, in terms of, what would you say to someone like that and why have you made this change?
Hmm. So it's a very, I think it's a very, very amazing question, and I think it's the heart of the way consumers think. Right now, when I look at Shoppers, Shoppers Stop itself is a brand. What is the brand? It's something which stands for a promise, a commitment of delivery to the end consumer. So in my mind, and in terms of a lot of, and we are actually, Sanjeev, as we speak, we are doing a lot of connect with our customers. We are listening to them, speaking to them, trying to understand that why they shop with Shopper Stop, right? So more than a certain brand name, they always say that it's because of the experience they get with shoppers. So a Shopper Stop itself is a brand, and the service levels which it should deliver should be consistently across all its formats. So that is one. Second, every consumer is different. There are some consumers who would like to actually buy only from the brand stores, which are EBOs. But there are a lot of customers who want to have a choice. They want to look at different product categories within. So, for example, if somebody wants to buy a shirt, a Louis Philippe exclusive customer might only want to go to shop to a Louis Philippe store, but a Louis Philippe customer within Shopper Stop format would also like to see what other brands are and then take a call. That is one. Second, as I said, the experience which we as offer as a brand, I think it's a fundamental difference. There's a lot of warmth in the way we connect with our customers, and I think that gets communicated strongly. So there what I'm trying to say is there are different kinds of customers who only like to shop within stores, but there are so many customers who would like to compare. They would like to see, okay, if I have to buy a denim, I want to look at different options, because the country is continuously evolving. There is no one way, there is no silver bullet, there is no one way of doing things. As long as Shopper Stop as a brand is consistent with its service across its entire complex, I think, and premise, I think that is something which we need to drive, and that is actually the most exciting thing. For example, we have seen various places where the customers come and shop in one category, but then they move to other categories. So just to tell you, Sanjeev, we track our customers really, really in depth. We have created personas for every brand within our portfolio. We also look at who are the trialists, who are the repeaters, how they have changed their behavior within brands. So I think there's a lot of that work happening, and it also shows that customers are not fixed. There are different kinds of consumers, and a departmental store is able to provide a one-stop shop. Now, the moment we do that, we mix it with the experience of Shopper Stop, the warmth, and the kind of behavior by which we are able to attract our customers. I think that makes itself a brand. So that's the promise. For me, a brand is always a promise. It can be single brand, it can be single category, multiple brands, multiple categories.
Right. And that's interesting. So if the way you're saying that shop itself is a brand,
Mm.
what does, according to you, Shopper Stop stands for? Like what, as if I am a customer, so you talked about the warmth and the softer factors, but in terms of me looking at Shopper Stop, why should I be there? And you talked about, you briefly talked about, coming to buy, let's say, Louis Philippe, but others shirts as well. but just trying to understand the full proposition that you think that this brand offers. And not just that, how are you placing it? So in terms of premium, super premium, luxury, maybe if you can talk a bit about that, and how is it kind of, what's your vision about it? Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about first where we are now, and second is where we want to take the journey going forward, right? So from the core customer speak which we understand, and when we reach out to customers, the core customer speak is that it's about the warmth of the experience which they get in. That's the first word, one of the first words why people shop in Shopper Stop. The second reason is we are a house of brands. So we are able to offer different brands across categories. So we offer a choice to the customer. Third, and I think this is something which is a very, very strong proposition of shoppers, is we have something called a personal shopper. Only 3% of our people are personal shoppers, but they contribute to 15 to 16% of revenue. So actually, we have got this amazing talent we have within us, colleagues who are able to take the customer, address all their needs, plan them. So each one of them have their key customers. I think that's an amazing thing going on there. And these are the top three reasons. For example, the personalization which is happening, the kind of experience. At times in brand stores, customers get overawed by the experience. On the other hand, we are not like that. We always love to connect with our customers and provide that warmth. If I look at the kind of brands which we have, Sanjeev, and what we want to do going forward, right now approximately around 46 to 47% of our business is happening through premium brands, and that's a journey which we are seeing that across the board, that is something which is going stronger and stronger every single quarter. So that is something which we'll definitely like to work on. My team's intent is that that's a journey we want to really drive. I see that that's 47 will become a 55, 56% next year, and this will keep on going forward. Why it's important? Because what we are seeing is that there's clearly a K-shaped recovery in the business. Either at the upper end, customers are spending, or there's something which is happening at a lower end, which a lot of our peers and one of our new formats as well is catering to. So how I see Shopper Stop growing is continue on premiumization. In fact, we are looking at doing 2 BTL stores now. Extremely first time in the country that concept will be done by somebody who will be doing it across all categories. It won't be only apparel or only beauty. Across the board, we are going to renovate and do two of our stores completely as a bridge to luxury store. I think that work is also happening as we speak. I see going forward, shoppers' experience built on premiumization. And when I say premiumization, it is not only the BTL brands. Within the premium brands, which also we have right now, can we work with those brands and create exclusive lines which are available only in shoppers? Because that's the product differentiation which we can provide in terms of experience. That is also something we are working on. Other thing which we need to do, and which there is a lot of thought and work happening, is on how can we make, especially when we are opening in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, how do we ensure that we are creating a hangout zone, right, where people come and spend time. So our first store in Kanpur with a Starbucks inside is coming up next month, and these are pilots which we are doing. But we believe that no longer the departmental store should be a place where only people sit or people only go and shop. It has to move into experiences, and those are the kind of things which we do. For example, we do something called a makeover. So for our beauty customers, approximately around every month we do 80,000 or 85,000 makeovers, where customers come, spend 10 to 15 minutes in the stores, understand the products, right? Go through a particular service which we have, and then they engage with us. So I think across the board, you will see that we will be focusing on premiumization and experiential shopping for the customers. I think these are the two big themes which we are working on right now, and this will keep on getting stronger and stronger season on season.
Sure. And I guess various definitions of premium are very different. Maybe if you can just define that premium that you're talking about, that will be quite useful, because there's premium, is there a super premium and luxury, or you think you are a bridge between to luxury?
No, so we would be always a super premium. So when I say premium and premium plus, to give you a few examples, in beauty we'll have a MAC or a NARS. And I'm just referring to brands so that it becomes
Absolutely, yeah.
a good reference check. If I talk about menswear, we have a Tommy and CK as a departmental store, which I think we are the only ones we will have. We will also have at some point of time, very soon, we'll have our money exchange. We'll have those brands coming in. If I'm talking about home, we are selling 30,000, 32,000 worth quilts from our stores. So that's also what we are talking about. If I'm talking about women's wear, we will, besides the national brands, we are working with, for example, W, and ensuring that the top end line, which is called a folk song, is displayed as a separate brand within the system. What I'm saying is, even with national brands, also we are upping that game. And these brands are not available everywhere. So they might be available in an EBO, but we are giving them specific spaces, exclusive lines for us, and building on that. So we're talking
Right.
about, so if, for example, if it's Levi's, it's more red loop we will sell, which is their premium
Sure.
merchandise.
Okay, great. And the second point you talked about being experience and places, like places for experience. And I even with my last talk with Venu, I think that was one change that was
Yes.
Shop was going through, becoming from maybe a real estate company in a way to more a store. And then now you're talking taking it to the next level of the department store where, so maybe if you can talk about this a bit more, like how do you make, you talked about Starbucks, for example, and so on, and some of the experiences like beauty and so on. But in terms of that journey, where are you? So because you said one or two stores now have. So what is the whole opportunity space here? How many stores you can kind of create into these kind of experience centers, and what can this mean overall longer term?
Okay, so I think so. Your question has two, three parts, and I will address each one of them. First one is on the product, right? So at some point of time, yes, we were a real estate company, if, for want of a better word. But I think what we are doing, Sanjeev, right now is working very closely with our partners, with the national and international brands, ensuring that the line which is there in shoppers is something which is relevant to our customers. So I think we are working very closely in buying and merchandising along with the teams, something which at time of Venu started, and I think we are doubling down on that. So I think that's something which we are working on. We see that the top 20-25 stores of the country will definitely go through this premiumization journey. The pilot starts now, and in terms of the BTL, and then I see that happening over the next 2 to 3 years. And globally also, Sanjeev, we have seen that departmental stores are very relevant if they move up that journey, right? So I think that's something we are working on. For the coffee thing, which I spoke about Starbucks, our intent is that every new store we are opening going forward, and especially in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, right, especially standalone stores, should have a hangout zone. So it will not be limited. It's not a long term thing, it's happening as we speak. So the new properties we are signing, we are working very closely with, whether it's Starbucks or other partners, and trying to see how we can get a place where people sit and spend time, because we have seen the more people spend time, the higher is the propensity for people to become, yeah, looking at experiences, and then they shop and they spend more time. I think there's a direct correlation there. See, every percentage point which we are able to upgrade in terms of premiumization, there is a very positive effect both on the SPSF, the ASPs, and the final bill value. So I think that's a clear correlation there, and we'll keep on driving it. And when I say that you have to premiumize, it can't be only product. It has to be a coffee shop, for example, or it also things like, uh, the service standards. So I spoke about personal shoppers. If there are X number right now, we want to make it 1.5x in the coming year, and keep on building on this. The idea is that you need to go through the customer journey when you are interacting with the customer, and make them loyal and give them that warmth, which is what Shopper Stops always stood for. You've gone on mute, Sanjeev.
Sorry, yeah. One other thing I wanted to bring out here was, you talked about some of the brands which are predominantly men's brands, right? Be it Louis Philippe, be it, Hilfiger, and so on. Now, point is, and again, I'm just quoting, going back to the person I talked about, and what he says is that it's much easier to transition from a women's brand to do men's, rather than if you are predominantly a men's brand, then it's very difficult to attract women or do women's brand. And right now you seem slightly more men dominated, and that if the aspiration is to do increase the TAM and get more women and so on, how what's the way to do it? And do you agree with this point at all?
No, Sanjeev, actually, this might be relevant for brands which are selling only one category, which is apparel, but we
Right.
are not that. We
Hmm.
have a very strong beauty, and like the way we have shared our last quarter results, we see that beauty is on an increase. We have a very strong non-apps line, which includes very strong watches line or a sunglasses. So I think and handbags, for example, we have got the best in the world. So we have got guests within our system now, and is doing extremely well. So might be relevant uh, for stores or retailers who only offer apparel. But when we offer a set of different product categories, where as you enter, in fact, if you enter Shoppers, and I'm sure you must have been to a lot of them, the first thing which you will always see would be the beauty section.
Right. Yeah.
So we are actually we have got a very strong vision on that, and I don't think that's relevant for that comment is relevant for us.
Hmm.
Also, what we see is when we are very close to a 50-50 kind of working. If I as in the contribution, if I look at how we stand right now as we speak, Sanjeev. So for
Right.
us, that is not an issue. In fact, Shoppers did that transition long time back, because if you look at the Elka story, it has been for last 20 years. So we have been selling beauty as a part of our DNA. Beauty stores always, the beauty section always has a predominance. So I think nowhere we have, maybe at the first store in Andheri was selling shirts, but I think it has been a long way since then. We have evolved, and we'll
Right.
keep on doing that.
Right. In fact, I'll come back to beauty because that's a very important subject, and both for shoppers and SS Beauty. But let me come back to that. Let's finish this discussion on shopper stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and in terms of product, you said you're a product person, and that's what makes you. What would you do? And here, two points here. One is people talk about private label as being very profitable business, and hence we all, as an analyst community, we always look at how much percentage of your sale is coming from private label and so on. How do you look at that? And second, in terms of just product, if how when you say you're a product person, what would you do to this shopper stop from a product perspective? So maybe these two questions. Yeah.
Yes. So Sanjeev, yeah. So yes. So I think even in the last call, I heard a lot of analysts speaking about the private label market share, and whatever meetings we have. I think when we look at business, and or when we as a management team look at business, we look at the margin, obviously, but we also look at the productivity, because unlike a lot of other players, we are predominantly a brand, right? Like, we predominantly have national brands, and we are working on building the private label strategy. So for me, the biggest making criteria is the Jimroff. There's a KPI which we follow, which is called Jimroff, which is actually the sum total of productivity and the margins, and that is the number we are driving, right? It's important that the private labels do well, and we need to make it strong, simply because that's one of the differentiators. We are not selling stop in, or stop is not available in any other format. So do we need to make it right? We need to make it strong, 100%. But just, do we need to over index for the sake of over indexing? No, because I will always look at Jimroff and see how we are moving in certain categories. As I have also said before, our Jimroffs are very strong, kids and especially Indian women's wear. In the other two categories, we have to do a little bit of a repositioning, and that's something which we are doing right now. We are putting the brands in place, and I'm pretty sure that by the coming Q3, we should be in a much better shape in terms of, because whatever things we are doing right now in terms of repositioning the brands, or making them true to their promise, I think that will happen, and we'll start seeing the results. See, Sanjeev, when I say, when I'm a product person, what I mean is that at the end of the day, whether it's national brands or private brands, it is only the product for which, because that is the core experience of a product, right? And it can be an apparel, or it can be wallets, it can be handbags, it can be shoes, it can be fragrance. But if you don't have the right product, customer will not come and shop with you. So it's very important that we bring the customer and the product journey at the heart of every decision which we make, and as long as we are true to that. See, when a lot of the formats which are there right now are legacy, because the way customers used to shop 20 years back, or how the categorization of brands used to be, is very different now. There's a different there's a e-commerce play which has made looks more important than fabric. So how you are making the looks of the customer come out and the usage occasion come out in terms of how you're designing your product, how you're positioning your product, I think that is the key in making a long term successful brand. Also, as a brand person, as a product person, I'm looking at investing more in our private. First, I don't want to call them labels, because the moment we call them labels, we bring them a notch down, because a brand is always a bigger promise than the product, right? And so that's something which we are working on. You will see far more investments in terms of marketing or in terms of storytelling across beautiful products. Our products are beautiful. We need to do a storytelling about it, because all the brands are built on certain promises and stories which we need to communicate. So I think that's something you will start seeing
Right.
from our side.
Sure. But even on the other side, which is when you take these other brands, which are, let's take Aditya Birla Group, where you have, obviously they're a pretty big
Yes.
thing for you. Now, when you have this discussion, how are you changing that discussion with them in terms of maybe exclusivity, maybe whatever is, are you changing anything there in terms of how your discussion is happening with them?
100%. So I think, see, our partnership with the IT Birla Group is a very deep partnership. I'm saying last 20 years, the partnership has been
That's
very,
right.
very deep, right?
That's right.
Whether it was Venu or Rajiv or Mr. Nagesh or Mr. Shrikande, the partnership with ABFI has always been, and I've been on the other side because I was selling from
That's
Alan
right.
Solly's side to shoppers. When we are having a discussion with, for example, ABFRL or any other partner, Sanjeev, the idea is can the top brands have 15 to 20% of line which is only for shopper stop?
Right.
Can we co-create the line? For example, there is an extension of one of the leading brands, and that has always been my favorite brand. So when I joined in this organization, I went to the ABFRL leadership team and we said, okay, can we co-create this line all over again and make it strong? And we are working very closely, and we should be seeing that brand very soon, again in a very strong manner within our stores. There's another brand in their portfolio which we believe has something which is a missing link within Shopper Stop, right? So we spoke to them. Uh, Normally, that's not a brand which was there in departmental stores, but together we have launched them. So I think these things we are doing with each of our partners. We worked with W very, very strongly, and in a way chose the line or created the line, co-created the line with them for the last festive which we had, and W had an outstanding number uh, in our stores. So I think that is the level of co-creation, involvement of our B&M teams to ensure that we create beautiful differentiated lines within shoppers. So as I said, whether it's for a private brand or for national brands, we need to get back to the basics of product. And that the moment we do that, we will see the upswing in conversions, ASPs, everything. The customers are there. We just need to ensure that with the use of product knowledge and data, we are able to give them the right products.
Sure. Just one other, while we are in Shopper Stop and apparels, we are discussing in terms of ethnic. And I think even in your earnings call, you talked a bit about ethnic doing well and so on. What's the strategy there? I think you also tied up in some places with Manyavar, if I'm not wrong, and did a few
Yes,
things. But
yes.
overall, if I look at your strategy longer term, what's your strategy there?
So ethnic, see, unlike any other category, ethnic is a category where you need to have very, very strong regional players. So, for example, there's a Neeru's which is very strong in South for us. So we have what? So there are two things. One, are we doubling down on Indian wear? Yes, because we believe that that's a category which has got a lot of potential, and that's the way we are seeing the consumption also changing. So that's one. The other thing is that we are tying up with regional, very, very strong regional players and making them, giving them that space, because the ethnic taste or the Indian wear taste changes from region to region. So while there are a couple of national brands, it's very important that you need to have very strong ethnic wear brands in those regions partnering with us. So I think that's something which we are doing, and this Diwali it really worked well for. In fact, Indian wear did really well, continues to do well, both national brands as well as the private brands which we have. Again, as I said, our promise to the customer is that we will offer choices to them. So that's how Manevar got into our system. We had the first Diwali with them, extremely good numbers which we had. That, and this is without ensuring that the Bandhya, which is our own private label or private brand, suffered. So Bandhya did well, but so did Manevar within our portfolio. So I think the desire is to slowly convert shoppers also into a destination, especially around weddings, because that's, in my mind, weddings are the biggest festival of India, more than Diwali, more than Holi. The consumption happens during wedding. So what we are doing is we are doubling down on two things: offering the choice to the customer uh, for that usage occasion, but also offering them gifts. For example, there's a concept called gifts of love, which we are working on, Sanjeev, which also makes shoppers a very strong gifting destination. So during this Valentine's, we have taken it to the next level and communicated with the customers around it. So we want to also develop that as a part. So I think there are multiple threads which run with strands which run across these things.
Sure. And in terms of loyalty program, of course, again, you talk about it a bit on the earnings call and so on. Are you happy with the way things are, or you think that can even get, you can actually do better?
We have just scratched the surface. So we have got some amazing data. We have some amazing loyalty, but what we are doing is with our machine learning, uh, which we are now deep dive into personas. We know that, for example, the 2.5 million customers who are active consumers with us, what are the brands they like, what are the brands they shop, what are the other brands across categories which they are shopping. So we are trying to create a personalized campaign for them, because going forward, while we always talk about our four pillars, going forward, personalization is something which is very, very important, because nobody wants them to be bombarded with 10 messages where none of them make any relevance. So we have taken that in a very, very strong way. I think there's a lot of work happening on that, Sanjeev. Maybe once, whenever you are in office, I would love to take you or other folks through that. But there is a lot of work. I think we are just scratched the surface. There is
Right.
lot we can do. In fact, to tell you, what we are doing is we are sharing a lot of this data with the brands as well. So when we talk to, say, Vishak from ABFRL, or we talk to Shailesh from uh, Arvind, we are now sharing with them that, hey, this is the 9 personas which we have, but for Arrow, this is the persona which really works well. So we are actually not only holding the data for us, because our
Hmm.
idea is to be very collaborative with our brand partners. So we are working with them to also ensure that how they are able to use that data to drive business within shopper
Right.
system.
Oh,
And
that's great.
I'm telling you, from 1 to 10, we are at 3 right now.
Right.
That is the future. I'm very excited with this piece. You can see
Right.
it from my face as well, because I think that's something is the heart of everything which we are doing now.
Right.
Customer data,
Hmm.
and product. These three things.
Right. So, Kavi, so far, whatever I've heard and whatever I've interacted with you earlier, I'm getting a sense that, as an analyst community, we love to believe Intune as a great story, SS Beauty and beauty business is a great story, and the beauty of and the, businesses of the future, while Shopper Stop is fine, it'll do all right. But from what I'm hearing from you is slightly different, that you seem to be pretty excited about Shopper Stop itself as
Yes, we
a
should be.
business.
Yeah, shoppers
Yeah.
is the biggest business for us. So,
Yeah.
so let me put it the other way around. Uh, the base which shoppers has, if we do start doing basic, if we just start elevating every single step, the returns are multifold. So I
Hmm.
think, and I, because both as a brand partner sitting outside and then seeing how shoppers was working, and now after having spent close to 10 months now in shopper stop system, I think there is a lot of juice. There's a lot of things which we are seeing and doing on product basis, and we will start seeing the results. Obviously, beauty is a great story. Beauty is at a stage where maybe apparel was 15 years back. It's just about exploding, and I think we have the right to win there in terms
Right.
of the way we are positioned. In tune, another story, great story. We have just launched our 16th store, by the way, last week. Last week on Friday, we launched Shell City Hyderabad. I was there for the
Kavi,
launch.
just hang on. I'll come back to Intune. So we'll talk about Intune. Let's just maybe go once. Maybe we talk beauty first,
Right.
and maybe I was reading L'Oreal's earnings call recently.
Mm.
They seem to be really bullish on India.
Yeah.
They're and India is already, at least in the professional side, India is already their top one of the top 5 markets for them,
Yes.
and doing extremely well. So given that. and given that beauty straddles both Shoppers Stop and SS Beauty as two different kind of formats that you have, uh, how are you kind of going to ride this wave? Maybe you can talk a bit more about that. That'll be quite useful. Yeah.
Yes, so I think again, the as I spoke about shoppers, there are two broad bases on which we are going to drive the beauty business. One obviously is the product. So the association which we have with the brands, right? We opened a NAS store yesterday in Salad City Walk, Delhi, right? Beautiful store. In fact, in today, I think there was an article today as well in Economic Times talking about the whole Shishido group and how excited they are with the India business of NARS, and it is better than what they expected. So I think there is a lot of work happening by Biju and his team on the whole beauty part. A, in terms of getting the best brands and partnerships within Shopper system, and B, I spoke about makeovers and the experiences which we are talking about. So at the start of the year, we were doing close to 45,000 makeovers a month. We have really doubled down on that, and that has become 80,000. So as we keep on driving this business, we want to be the go-to place for brands who want to come in an omni-channel environment, who want to have a great presence of more than 100 stores, and the strength of SS Beauty which we have, and then obviously the Omni system which we have in terms of both ss.com and ssbo.in. So I think that is something we are driving. We also have the distribution wing which we have. There we have got NAS, and we have got now Armani Beauty is going to come in, Prada. So I think there is a lot of that piece happening, Sanjeev, and we want to own that space, both in terms of the product and the service, because both of them come hand in hand.
Right. But there seems to be competition here, right? There are new players who've got into this business as well. On an while of course Nykaa has been there as a online channel. How do you see competitive environment here?
No, there will be. So obviously, as I said, 15 years back, fashion, it's the same stage where fashion was. Everybody came in, a lot of people drove growth. So the overall business will anyway expand, Sanjeev. But our right to win is on two things. One is the brands which we have and the experiences which we are driving. Now to do 80,000 makeovers in a month is, it can't be bought by opening stores. There's a lot of learning and knowledge which is sitting there, which I think we'll keep on doubling on and building. We are we are 100% sure that we'll get the best brands. We'll enter into partnerships with them. We offer 100 stores plus SS Beauty. We have got around 12 stores. We in fact we are opening our biggest one, which is 8,000 square feet, on 21st March in Calcutta. We spoke about it.
Yeah.
We will also invite you for that, Sanjeev. Please join us for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that space which we are building on right now. So build on the product, which is the brands which we get in our portfolio, and build on the experiences. I think that can't be bought over by just opening a lot of stores. That there's a lot of knowledge which is inherited within the system, which keeps on driving that.
Right. So, and in terms of growth, will you also do franchise stores here, or this is your own kind of?
These are our own stores, because typically the capexes are high, and I think that's a model where we are very comfortable.
Right.
So I don't think we are looking at a franchisee store in the beauty part of the business as we speak.
Sure. Let's come to Intune, which is the other thing that at least as analyst community we are quite excited about, especially because Zudio has been such a big thing, and everybody is thinking that if you can replicate even a bit of Zudio, that can create huge amount of value. So where do you think you are in this journey? Where and where do we see going next 3, 4, 5 years?
Sanjeev, why would we create only a bit of Zudio? We'll create a lot of Intune. Let me say that. I think there's a lot of admiration for what Zudio has done. It's a lesson, and we spend a lot of time as a team also to understand what they are doing. And I think fabulous. So a lot of great work done by that team. Having said that, we have got our own journey. We opened our 16th store last Friday. The initial KPIs seem very, very strong. In fact, I was just reviewing the coming season merchandising, and the plans look really, really strong. So quite excited about this, Sanjeev. I have always told people that in the product business, you will have some successes, some failures, but is the journey and the positioning right or not? So in case of Intune, the one thing which gives me a lot of comfort is the positioning is amazing. So our kids contribution every single uh, month which we see holds on steady. The other menswear and women's wear categories are doing well. The sales densities are quite strong. In fact, we have just started our USS, and I was reviewing the data. The USS is good, but still we are selling more fresh. So there is a lot of excitement around what we are doing from the consumers.
Right.
Analyst, I will just keep on the. I won't be able to, can't comment on that, but from the customer point, we are seeing a lot of that. Stickiness coming in. We are launching into new cities, new markets. I see that this business, there's no reason why this should not be a 1,000 crore business in the next 2 3 years.
Right.
Right? We have to always be a grounded, do stuff right, learn from mistakes, learn good practices from the competition. And so there are a lot of good practices from Zudio which we should learn. There are some fabulous things Style Union is also doing. So learn
Right.
from them and keep on building on things. I'm very confident that this business will keep on. Anywhere we should be opening 60 to 65 more stores in the coming year. And
Right.
it's just the start.
And you started by saying that you joined in for the home store part,
Home
and the home, and you were quite excited about that. Now, obviously, you have a much broader role and a bigger role here. But what's happening to that business, and where do you think opportunity? I know it's very small right now.
very small. It's very
Yeah.
small, but let me tell you, along with beauty is the highest growing business. Obviously, the bases are smaller. The like for likes are
Sure.
amongst the highest. The business has turned around and turned positive, EBITDA positive in the last quarter. So YTD we are EBITDA positive. I think there's a big turnaround there. We would be looking at expanding again. See, we are like in Intune, we are working on clusters. So we'll choose markets where we want to be and build around it. It's a great potential. Our competitors have done a fabulous job there. So there is a long way for us to grow. But definitely we are seeing very good. See, the good thing is that all our boxes which we have, whether it's larger or smaller, the concepts have started coming well and doing well. So I think
Right.
that's a very important thing in our journey, because home actually is a very conceptual level selling. So when I always talked about the team, so the example we talked about personal shoppers, that how we can grow that business. Home used to be 10-12% of business contribution by personal shoppers at the start of the year. When we worked closely with the personal shoppers, that 12% became 24%.
Right.
So that gives me a lot of confidence that if you're able to work with your teams and deliver that experience to the consumer, sky is the limit.
Right. And home, from what I understand, you're not looking at furniture part, right? It's
We
more
are not
like
looking
home
at
accessory, right?
yeah, we are not looking at furniture, because if you do a box, you will find that furniture is something. It's a very specialist business.
Hmm.
That's one. Second, it's a business which has. Are you guys there? Well, I've lost you.
Yeah, yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So A is a very specialist business, and second, we have also figured out that the sales productivities are quite low there. So as a one of the first things I did was, okay, can we move out of this business? So we are moving out of that business. We'll focus on the toilet, the kitchen, the bath, bed, those kind of categories. It's doing really well.
Right.
Very happy to share that. Smallest business, the youngest business, but doing really well.
But you're looking at store in store concept, or you're actually going to have standalone for this as well?
We have close to 7 stores right now, which are standalone home stores. We obviously have within our departmental stores, we also have home shop and shops, or the home area within
Yeah.
shoppers. But we are looking at expanding standalone doors. So we identified the clusters in North
Right.
and Bangalore where we think will expand.
Right. Uh, Maybe any other optionalities in the business you think, other like in terms of either product or categories, or something that you think from a longer term perspective that can be exciting, given what you already have, given your footprint.
No, so I think there are a lot of them. For example, see, one thing which I have been speaking to our team, and what I think we believe as a leadership team is that we continuously need to experiment, and we continuously need to try out things, because what is whatever we have been doing till now is not the reason why we would be successful going forward. Because customers change their way of working, their consumption patterns. How are we changing, right? For example, lab grown diamond swim. We were the first ones to start creating that category. It's very nascent,
Yeah.
but we are looking at a thing that how can we grow this category going forward, because long back, shoppers used to sell a lot of, when Jilly and everybody was there, we used to do a lot of that business. So I think that's one category we are looking at building. Uh, we are also exploring that how we can, work with couple of leading mobile phones, and can we have that as a category, because phones no longer are instrument, they are a fashion accessory, and we sell everything which is fashion. So I think we will be exploring a lot of these. Yeah. On online, we are also working very closely with our dropship brands and trying to see that how we are able to capture the new brands and bring them in. And I think, Sanjeev, the biggest thing which we want to work on is we should also be a place where we are able to give chance to the brands to come and experiment themselves. So from this year onwards, we are also creating pop-up zones in our stores where brands will come in, experiment, give a choice to the customer. The ones which will really work well, then we take them to all other stores. I think there's a lot of that work. It's a lot of work is on the product and product experience and creating a differentiation.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah.
lost you somewhere. Maybe it was my connection, but it's okay. Now I got the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, given all these exciting opportunities, given where we are, maybe I'll ask from a capability perspective,
Hmm.
and the structure that you have created so that we can execute all this, right? Or already existing structure, or how are you kind of going about it? So maybe just start with the board and even the promoters.
Hmm.
What is kind of their role in this whole journey, you think, and what's the dynamic that works?
So I think, uh, honestly, after working for 12 years now as a CEO, MD in various organizations, uh, this is somewhere where I feel that we get a lot of support in terms of, obviously there is a cadence, a monthly cadence where we as a leadership team talk about what's happening, but I think there is a complete freedom given to us in terms of what we want to do, what we don't want to do. Obviously, as a board or a promoter group, there's always going to be, there has to be reason why you are doing stuff, but I think there's a lot of that freedom comes to me. So I think me and my team, we are quite comfortable in sense of that. If I talk about the board, Sanjeev, uh, we have our board members, someone who heads the entire QSR chain, leading QSR chain. Then we have Mahesh, who takes care of, so Smita obviously comes from uh, the McDonald's, this
That's right.
background. Then we have Mahesh, who comes from Kirloskar. Uh, we have Arun, who comes with a very strong background of e-commerce and apparel. I think what the board really guides and does well is that holds us true to our promise of, and I think that's the way the board should be doing, is whether is it right for the customer or not. So I think that's the only thing. And because we have people who have done that and they have experience of different industries, it becomes very easy for us to bounce off ideas, connect with them, and I think that's the strength of our board. the
Right.
in, so the wisdom which we are able to do and checking of ideas. So I think something which, the board is an enabler. It helps us to, it's not something which is blocking us from doing things. It really helps us to, you know fine tune your ideas, because they have done these things. So it becomes very effective and efficient for us.
Right. And in terms of promoters, you're saying that that's just like a
Yeah.
similar kind of structure
Same, same,
where,
same,
yeah,
same. I think the only question which we always keep us asking ourselves amongst us with the promoters is, I think the single question is, how is it enabling the customer? I think that's the only thing. Otherwise, there's absolutely freedom for me and my team to do what we want to drive. I
sure.
mean, it's
But
it's
of
it's
course, the real estate experience and so on should also kind of
that
help
helps,
along.
obviously. For
Yeah,
example, if you are doing a departmental store, and if there's a point of view, or for example, if you are doing a store in any property we are looking at, and if they have that understanding, it really helps us to obviously fine tune and check that piece again and again. But it's something the board is enabling and the promoters are enabling us to do what we want to do.
sure.
I think that gives us a lot of comfort to me as a CEO, but to the entire leadership team as well.
And in terms of your team that you've built, you think you now have all the gaps are filled, or are there anything? Because you have now a CEO, you have a CEO of beauty, you have a CEO of, Intune and so on, right? So how is that structure? And
So
you
I
think,
think team is really strong and enabled, and we have see the what is the responsibility which particularly I have is to ensure that we are able to give the freedom and remove all the blockages in front of decision making for my team, right? I think that's the one fundamental thing which I believe in. And we have independent people driving each of these businesses, which makes it, that's why I'm saying it makes it easier. Like a lot of people have asked me also that there are so many initiatives which are being driven, like there's an Intune, there's a private brand, there is a beauty, where is the bandwidth? But there are leaders who are super strong in each of their areas who are driving it. And as a committee, as a leadership to team together, we need to ensure that the support functions and I are able to support them with either the resources or the technology or marketing, whatever is required. But there are leaders driving each of these functions. So I think the leadership team is more or less in place, which will take us to the next. In fact, we got somebody on board now for customer insight because and data sciences. So I think that's something which I thought was something which we need to add, because there's a lot of work which is going to happen on that piece which you want to drive. So I think that is also now closed. So quite happy with the structure which we have right now.
great. So, Kavi, last question from me, and this is actually maybe a lot of times this would have been the first question, but given that this has been a bit of a non-linear conversation, given how it is flown, today the question that I get asked the most is what is happening to the Indian consumer, right? And I'm seeing, and maybe I'll talk a bit about, let's say footwear, for example. We see some of the listed companies not doing very well, but when I hear about Skechers doing extremely well, it's kind of things that are, that don't necessarily all tie up into some very neat kind of a, structure. And how are you reading this whole consumer, thing that's going on? Is there something structural in it, or is just a cyclical slowdown that we are seeing? And how are you as a CEO navigating this whole thing? And I'm talking about just very broad perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, Sanjay. And yes, it is something which a lot of people asked me the first, but I good that that it came up during our conversation as well. See, there are three things which are very very important. One is the consumer consuming in a way which is different from what they were doing before. The answer is yes. We have seen a lot of data. There are certain sectors which are doing better, something which are not, right? Second, if you form the pattern of the best or the number one people across all sectors, you will always find that the product differentiated people or who have created a right positioning for them will always gain market share. So even when the market is little tough, the people who do well are the people who are able to position their product offering and positioning correctly, which, and that I have not seen even now. So we have gone through the journey when we were doing the same thing in 2008 9 when Benetton, I used to head Benetton along with Sanjeev Mohanty at that point of time, who was my MD. We grew phenomenally well there. So the for me the lesson always is that in good times everybody does well, in tough times great companies actually gain market share. And I think that's the only thing which we are focusing on, that yes, the cyclical industry is there, there's inflation, people are saying that elections are there, after that things will improve. So that's one part of it. Can we keep on gaining market share in a market which is a little tight? I think that's what we are working on. And which brings me to 2 points which are central to anything. When you gain market share or you gain businesses, whether you're positioning your, why should a customer shop in Shopper Stop? Are you, do you keep on asking this question, and are you getting answers for that? And once he or she comes inside the store, how do we ensure that the right product is seen so that they can end up being our customers? I think there are the only two things. When I say right product, right brand, right categories, focusing. So it's a lot of, it's a lot of, in retail is all about details. So a lot of small things, corrections which you do price point wise, brand wise, you have to do those things to ensure that you pass that thing. And that's what we are doing, positioning product. That's the heart of the business. And that's what a Skechers is doing well, or some other, or Rare Rabbit is doing well. So I think that's the learning which I have.
Great. Kavi, thank you so much for this. In fact, I wish we had a lot of time and we could delve into detail into a lot of the points that you brought out, which are very interesting. But of course, we covered quite a bit, and I
Yes.
think it looks like a great story. And wish you all the very best for a very long stint here and a great journey.
Thanks,
Yeah.
and we'll keep on chatting, Sanjeev. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And yeah. Uh,
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
yeah.